frontier is defined as uncharted territory by land or ocean. Those who chart that territory tell a story. The past illustrates the blueprint for the present, how things are and how they've evolved. From land to water, we are challenged to border that new frontier, a frontier the outdoorsman knows like no other. Author Gary Lewis works his way along that edge of where discoveries, failures, and achievements have written the story of the sportsman.
Yes! Yes!
From state to state, continent to continent, the stories told create the foundation of the present, and they lay the framework for the future. Through the muzzle fire and on the stone are stories from the edge.
Water is the most important thing as far as Indians are concerned, 'cause that's life.
The past is written, the present is here, and this is Frontier Unlimited.
Look around, and it's obvious. This is cattle country. Some of the finest beef in the world is grown on these lands. It's a quiet, almost forgotten part of Central Oregon. It was the land of the Shoshone and the Northern Paiute. And when the Indians were all but pushed out, in came the sheep herders and the cattlemen to claim the land for livestock. There was an uneasy tension between those that ran cattle in the high country and the men who fed the woolies.
Hey, Russ. Hey, how are you? Doing great.
And then
miss out.
Yeah.
The Grindstone Lakes are found on the sprawling GI Ranch east of Prineville, Oregon, west of Burns and Seneca. Managed by Russ Scott of Direct Adventures, the fishery is fly fishing only, catch and release, and the trout grow big in the food-rich water.
Oh yeah, I got tons of everything.
It was discovered by trappers from the Hudson Bay Company, and when gold was found in the creeks, the first white settlements were established at Canyon City and Prineville. Where the sheep stripped away the grass, sheetgrass grows on the slopes. Old foundations and abandoned ranch homes stand mute testimony to the dreams of pioneers and the battles they waged against an unforgiving climate and their fellow men. When the notices went up on the pine trees that no sheep shall be found north of this line, it was not long before hooded men with Winchesters, their saddlebags full of ammunition, began to shoot down vast herds of sheep. East of the small town of Galena, Lewis and crew turned south and left the dust trails across the landscape in mid-July. Today one must try to read the story left in the scars on the land, where once the creeks were choked with beaver dams and willows on both banks, the water runs unshaded out of the mountains. The best fishing takes place between April and early July, and picks up again when the water cools in October. It's a fantastic desert trout fishery, managed for low impact. If a group fishes 2 lakes, the next group will fish 2 other lakes.
Grills off. Go ahead and grab this one right here.
In June and July, the damselfly and dragonfly nymphs are active. Leeches are abundant, and the fish forage on chironomids and snails.
That's what the cabin is.
Grindstone Lakes is a collection of trout waters found on the GI.
If you were to think about what this looked like here 120 or 150 years ago, there wouldn't have been a dam here. There would have been a creek bigger than what's flowing there. And there'd have been willows all through this canyon, just tall trees, and then tall grasses up the side. That's what used to be here. And all of these little creeks were just full of willows, beaver dams. It was just rich habitat for deer and elk and antelope. And yes, do you need, I have some 3X, do you need it? Okay. So today I've seen calabatus, damselflies, lots of damselflies, and a few dragonflies, and snails, and then also ants. With all the different food that's available here, I'm choosing a calabatus nymph as my dropper, and then I've got a fly made out of foam for my dry, and now he's coming right up to it. He's coming right up. Oh, he turned away. Oh, got him. Oh, shit. Oh, no. He took the dry, and I set it too fast. Ah. All right. Try to do better.
The best fishing takes place between April and early July and picks up again when the water cools in October. It's a fantastic desert trout fishery, managed for low impact.
Wow, that surprised both of us. That's a fighting hard, big fat rainbow right there. He took the dry. Yeah, there's one. He surprised me and I surprised him. He went for the dry fly, which is kind of a flyer for me. I chose that little horsefly looking thing with a foam body. It's a really special opportunity to be here on a ranch like this, largest ranch in Oregon, and so rich with history. So it's a great place to be here for fishing, obviously, and the deer and elk hunting, I'm sure, is good here in the fall. But this was a place that was a hard place to live, hard place to make a living back in the 1880s and 1890s. And there was a lot of violence here, division between the people who raised livestock, the cattlemen and the sheep growers. Didn't see eye to eye here in this part of Central Oregon. Sometimes the biggest fish will make the smallest disturbance on the surface. You'll see their snout come up. They come up really slow and deliberate, and then they grab what they're going to grab. And then as they go back down, you'll see that dorsal fin come out of the water, and sometimes the tip of the tail. And then a moment later, the rings are totally gone. You don't even know something was there. That's why you got to be looking all the time. Oh yeah, there's a fish feeding right here in this grass, right in these tules. I think he's in there looking for snails. I just saw one right here close to the bank. See if I can get eyes on him. Ooh, got him! Oh shoot! I was watching my dry fly, and then all of a sudden the dry fly went under the water, and I lifted the rod, and he had the calabatus in his mouth. There's another one feeding right here next to me. This is what they look like out here in the desert. the dry, for sure. And that's what he looks like right there. Goes. That was intense. He came up and he ate 3 flies all at once. My imitation and 2 naturals. I wasn't sure what was happening. I just set the hook. I saw his dorsal fin come out. It was pointing right at my fly. Like a salmon. Oh, what a beauty. What a beauty. Wow. Wow, what a fat snail eating fish that is. That is a deep, deep rainbow right there. From Jeff, it's great. Really? Well, I like that. In fact, I like that your strap. That's pretty cool strap.
Yeah, I always use it.
At night, they watched the stars go round the sky and watched the flames lick up into the dark of the night. Out on the hills, the coyotes sang their songs as old as time. Out here, on what used to be the frontier where cattle is king, it's still easy to remember.
This is a Thomas & Thomas rod with a Able click and pawl reel on it. Our plan today is we're gonna put Mark in the boat and we're gonna go out here. I think we're gonna start this morning kind of with an intermediate line, kind of get down below the surface before the bugs start hatching and troll around some either damsel nymphs and calabatus nymphs below the surface as they're headed towards the weed beds as the sun comes up. And it's all about confidence. If you go out there with an attitude of this isn't going to happen, it won't happen.
That won't happen, right?
No, if you go out there with an attitude that it's going to happen, you're going to be ready when it does. So
we're gonna get out here after everybody else, start exploring. Maybe I think I look at this little point here, off that point in the deep water over there, and then around over to the dam. Try not to get too close to the guys fishing from the bank. It's really important when you come to a place like this to bring a net. And the net that I brought is good for a fish up to 22 inches. And beyond that, I am outclassed with that net.
we're going to do a little bit of trolling on our way down to the other end of the lake, just so I've learned that you catch more fish if your fly's in the water. Remember, point your rod tip down low. There you go. These fish come from Desert Springs Trout Hatchery in Summer Lake, Oregon. They're triploid fish, so they're sterile. They grow faster, kind of like in the cattle industry. A steer grows faster. We put sterile fish in. It's ODF and W, Oregon state law. Basically, we're headwaters of another tributary, so we're not allowed to stock fertile fish. So there's no chance of them reproducing and mixing with a wild strain of trout further down in the drainage.
That's a big one, Russ. Wow. Beautiful.
What you were asking about how kind of those nymphs and stuff swim in the water, it can be pretty sporadic. So I really like to, when I'm stripping, kind of switch up the stripping patterns, do a couple that are short, a couple that are long, a couple twitches, and pauses.
A little bit of fluorescent yellow, copper. It's a dragonfly body. Oh yeah.
It's his first fish on a fly rod, so.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now if he wants to pull, I want you to let go of the reel. The first thing I want you to do is take that finger away from the line. Fly came out as nice as I got him in the net.
That's why you do this. I mean, sure, it's fun to be hanging out at the lake and float around a boat, but it's fish on. That's what this is about. That was a blast.
Last night, come on, we could do this forever. Fish, eat, repeat.
I think we need to go over to that corner where that light is.
I love that spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple things like the direction the wind's coming from and shade. This mountain right here to the north of us gives this north part of the lake shade first in the evening, and the fish like that. They kind of come up out of the depths and move into the shallows, start feeding on mostly leeches, but also midges this time of night. And then the mountain also blocks the wind a little bit and it makes for some easier casting. And if we do have a breeze, it's usually at our back. So those two things make for some pretty good fishing conditions. So he's cruising right to left, so try to put it about 3-4 feet in front of him. About at your 11 o'clock, right there, about 20 feet out. Set it down now. That's going to be perfect, leave it. Get it. Well done, man.
Yeah. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he's kind of hanging out.
Now he knows. Now he knows.
Man, that's a good 22 inches right there.
Oh, almost. All right, Neil.
Good.
Step on down.
Oh, maybe good. Fishing is its best. Yeah, that's too good.
Too
Too good.
Repeat?
Yep.
Let's see what happens.
Lewis likes to watch the trout's pattern, assess its attitude, then present a bug in the way the fish wants it. If the fish is feeding on top, Lewis gives it a dry fly. If the fish's tail shows above the water, it could be feeding on snails or emergers or rooting for tasties down in the mud.